BMW R1200GS, guys. This is what we're gonna test ride today. Let's check it out. Let's get this thing started. So let's head out of the parking lot here and get to some twisties and some freeways. Okay, let's have a look at the bike first before we get, doing the review. It's a very attractive looking bike. Just a quick walk around. It's a GS model, 1200 cc's. It's a nice looking bike. I think it's one of the best looking adventure bikes out there on the market. Very attractive. Yep. Okay, let's go. Alright, I'm here in Walnut Creek, California. So I've already ridden this bike for about 20 minutes, so I've got a good sense of what this bike feels like. I just want to pull over here again, and I just want to point out some of the features of this bike, and then I'll give my detailed commentary on my first impressions here. But yeah, I think I've got a good sense of this bike now. Let's just stop for a while, and I want to point out a couple of features. Alright, so let's look firstly at this the bike. It's a nice look. Look at the shaft drive. This is a very unique feature about this bike. I love bikes with shaft drives. Low maintenance. You don't have to oil your engine. It's a flat boxer engine. Keeps the center of gravity really low. You got the filter right there, low maintenance, easy maintenance. You don't have to take the fairings out. Easy oil change. Got nice suspension, Brembo brakes. Just nicely well put together bike. Interesting bike rear end. There's no axle there. The only comment I have initially about this bike is, and I still have to validate this, how it's the width of the bike. I'm just from a lane splitting perspective, I'm not really sure whether the width is going to get in the way of lane splitting here in traffic in California. So I'll kind of evaluate that when I get on the freeways here and some tight traffic. But it's a nice looking bike, nice angles. Okay, let's go. Let's get back on some twisties here. Alright, so I'm going to hit some twisties here. I'll see what this bike handles like on the twisties. But let's talk about a couple of things. Firstly, the seating position. The seating position is quite nice. It's very comfortable. You're sitting up pretty high. The handlebars here are much wider than my Vstrom. I think they're wider, and they're angled a little bit more lower and towards your body, so it's more closer to your chest versus the Vstroms. I think my hands are a little higher and more I'm more reaching out to it. But here I think they've got the rider triangle just nailed and squared away very comfortably. And I think short drivers can also handle this bike quite effectively. Yes, it is a tall bike, just as tall as my Vstrom, but you can get a low seat option on this bike. So if you're 5'8" and over, I don't think you'll have any problems handling this bike from a height perspective. The handlebars are definitely wider. It's a nice riding position. The seat is very comfortable. The seat is more comfortable than my Vstrom. I've already been on this bike for like 20-25 minutes, and I don't feel my butt is not sore. It's quite good. My legs have a lot of room. They're very comfortable. I'm 6 feet tall. So riding position wise, it's quite nice. You get a good commanding view of the road. I'm just feeling the air buffeting here. So this is a stock windscreen, and I feel no wind buffeting at all. Air buffeting is the engine. I like the sound of this engine. This is a flat boxer engine. I'm just checking the time here, see how much time I have left. There were comments that the engine, is agricultural. There's comments and a bunch of reviews made that it sounds a little agricultural, but I think it's quite smooth. This engine is quite smooth. I've been on worse engines, and it's a nice sounding engine. I think from an exhaust perspective, I'd like the exhaust to be a little bit louder. Definitely at low speeds you can hear the exhaust, but on high speeds, when I'm picking up speed here, it's hard to hear the exhaust. So I'd probably want to change that. The throttle here is very nice throttle. It's very responsive. It's not jumpy. I like the way this throttle feels. And you know, it's just a comfortable bike. This is a very, very comfortable bike. The transmission, one of the things I've already noticed about this bike is the gearbox. I think the gearbox is very, very smooth. It's got a hydraulic clutch. The clutch and the shifting on the gearbox and the clutch transmission is extremely smooth. I think this is probably one of the best gearbox I've experienced on an adventure bike. Definitely on an adventure bike, this probably has the best gearbox and clutch feel out of all the adventure bikes that I've ridden, so that's pretty impressive. Shifts are nice and smooth. Gear shifting is nice and smooth, and it's a good overall engine. See, the acceleration is quite nice and smooth. I think the suspension on this bike is also quite impressive. Oops, I think I stalled it here. So yeah, turn back here. Yep, easy to turn. Quite agile, quite nimble, just as nimble as my Vstrom. The acceleration is very nice and smooth. Yeah, this engine's got definitely quite a bit of power. There's no power lag on this. This is a very powerful engine. And I think you pick up speed quite easily on this bike. It's got good acceleration. And you end up going faster on this bike than you think. You think you're, going, 60 miles an hour, and you look at the speedometer, you're way over 80. So this is a very fast bike. Definitely not as fast as the supersports, but it's capable, very capable, and it definitely eats up these curves very, very well. Good acceleration, nice view of the road, nice commanding seat position. Good agility. I mean, this bike is nice and comfortable. Let's see what this accelerates like. Yeah, plenty of pickup, plenty of power on this engine. Yeah, I mean, you can go really fast on this bike. Yeah. Good. The torque on this bike is quite impressive. It's got a lot of pull. It just keeps pulling and pulling. A lot of good torque. Bottom end torque is quite nice, and you don't have to wait to revving it up. I mean, you can feel that torque quite early in the riding. Quite early in the speed acceleration. Yeah, so I've already been on this bike for quite a while, and I'm still feeling very comfortable. And I think that's one of the advantages of these adventure bikes. You can ride very long distances and remain very, very comfortable. And unlike supersports and some of the other bikes out there, and taking these curves, it handles these curves quite well. I want to see how this handles the freeway. Alright, we're gonna come up to some freeway. Gonna hit the freeway here and let's see what it handles like. Alright, getting on the freeway here. I'm in Walnut Creek, California. Beautiful day to do a test ride. So most of my riding is on the freeway, so I'm very curious. I think this will be just fine on the freeway, but let's check it out. Oh yeah, lots of power, lots of thrust. This torque on this bike is quite impressive, and you end up going faster than you think. I've already pointed that out. Just cruising here. Good wind protection, very good wind protection. Extremely good wind protection. And I think one thing I didn't mention was the kind of the visibility of the rear. I think these mirrors, yes, they give you visibility of the rear, but I think the mirrors could be slightly bigger. They're kind of small. I think the mirrors on my Vstrom are much bigger, and I get a better view of the rear than this one. But this is something minor. It's not nothing that big. Yeah, this definitely handles the freeway quite well. You can go really fast on this bike. I think I can definitely take this. I'd be very comfortable taking this adventure bike, this BMW, to exploring all parts of California. Be very comfortable taking very long distances. Tahoe, Highway 1 to LA, Monterey, California. This bike would be very comfortable taking these long distance rides. So I think I want to spend a couple of moments comparing this bike to my Vstrom. So this is definitely a heavier bike than my Vstrom. My Vstrom, I think it weighs about 475 pounds, and this one is a little bit over 500. But the interesting thing about this R1200GS is it feels lighter than my Vstrom, and I think the reason due to that is the way it's designed. The way the engine layout is designed. It's got a flat boxer engine which is extremely low to the ground. So the center of gravity on this BMW is lower than my Vstrom 650. That's why this bike feels a lot lighter. It is definitely a heavier bike, but it feels lighter riding on the freeways and even on the twisties, the country roads, than my Vstrom, mainly due to the way the engine's been designed, and it's quite well engineered, very extremely well engineered. The other kind of big difference between the Vstrom and this is definitely the engine power and the thrust. This engine has got definitely more power and more torque than the Vstrom, primarily because it's double the capacity of the Vstrom 650. So that's what I can see off the bat. I definitely can go faster on this bike. Here's a Porsche here, and I think I can definitely kick that Porsche's butt on the freeway here. This bike gives me a lot more confidence driving at higher speeds, much higher speeds than my Vstrom. mean, the Vstrom handles the freeways quite well, but this one, I definitely feel more confident going extremely fast on the freeways. So this is, I mean, I've quite enjoyed riding this bike. I've really been on this bike for what, 50 minutes now, and I still feel as fresh and as comfortable as before. I think one of the improvements they could make to this bike is the way this dash is laid out. The speedometer is very small. I mean, look at it. I mean, this looks like a clock, a little clock, and the speedometer is more legible than the tachometer. But I think they can do a better job in presenting the data. Maybe make the tachometer a little bit bigger, kind of what they did with the S1000RR. The cockpit, the dash on that was much more up to date and much more presentable than this dash. But this is a minor point. I mean, feel and wise riding this bike and the comfort you get, it's quite impressive. So yeah, this is BMW's best-selling model. Out of all their bikes, I think their BMW sells this one. They've had more sales of this bike than any of their other models, and I can understand why, because this bike gives you all the power you need on the freeways and you know, carbon taken canyon roads, and it does it very comfortably as well. I mean, you can, you know, travel all across USA, you can travel California, you can definitely do some cross-border European travel on this. You know, there's no terrain this bike will not be able to handle, just the way it's designed, the suspension, the shaft drive on it. Dakar, I think this thing has hit Dakar and all those deserts. It's an all-round bike that can pretty much do anything. It's a multi-dimensional bike, and that's one characteristic that adventure bikes have over a lot of their other bikes. They give you sports bike performance, you know, all the power you'd want from a sports bike, but they avoid putting on extra weight like some of the cruisers do and some of the touring bikes do. Those touring bikes and cruisers get really heavy. So this bike tries to give you kind of the benefits of sports bike riding and adventure, you know, dual sports riding, which is why, you know, adventure bikes make a lot of sense in purchasing.
Take a final look and just do some final remarks, and I'll get my thoughts together and tell you what I think. Yeah, so I think it's a great bike. No doubt this is a great bike. It's a good bike. I didn't get to do the lane splitting, but I think lane splitting, this bike should be able to do lane splitting with no problems. So I think it'll that I can knock that off. It's a great bike. I like it. I like everything about it. Is there anything I don't like about it? Just trying to think. Not really. I haven't found any negative about this at all. Actually, one of my buddies owns a GS Adventure and the only comment he told me was, with this engine, right, during summer months, he gets, for his legs, he gets a little bit of heat on his legs. So I didn't experience that today, and it was a pretty hot day. Been on this bike for quite a while. I didn't experience any heat on my legs, but that was the feedback he gave me, and personally I didn't feel it. But other than that, I know it's a Brembo brakes, and it's a good bike, guys. I think my conclusion on this bike is, if you are interested in getting a GS R1200GS, it's a good bike. It's a good investment. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend this bike. It's good. definitely I felt excited riding it, and that's what I look for. Does it excite me? I did get an excitement level out of this bike. It is a good bike. It's got its character. I can understand the character. I like the open engine. It's easy, and there's no fairings here, so you don't have to take any fairings off. It's easy to work on. I like working on my bikes. So, all in all, guys, yeah, I recommend this bike. It's a good bike. If you're considering buying a GS R1200GS, yeah, I highly recommend it. If you already own one, yeah, congratulations, guys. Good choice on owning one. I think the only improvement I would make is I'd make it a little bit louder. This is a little bit quiet for me. I put on probably a Two Brothers Racing exhaust on that, make it a little bit louder for me. I like kind of hitting, but other than that, it's a great bike. So if you want to buy one, go buy one. If you own one, congrats, and I'm gonna head back to the dealership, and because I'm very impressed. I am impressed with this bike. Okay, I'm gonna head back right now, and that's it. Let's go.